All right. We are recording. So,
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to start with a disclaimer.
okay.
First of all, I'm shocked how little I remember.
Oh, really?
Over the years, it's just shocking. And Irv and I have talked about that. You know, neither of us remember our mother at all. And he was 5. I was 3. But anyway.
But that's little, and it's been a lot of years. Yeah. But also, I just thought I would let you know how initially, I don't know if I ever told you how I kind of came up with this idea. So in class, we had a project that we have to do. We have to interview an older adult, and we could choose any subject or whatever we wanted to do. And so I, Grandma had just passed away, and I was thinking it would be, actually, I was watching that video that Anna's interview of Grandma. And I thought, well, that would be fun to ask you the same questions. But then I went back and watched that video again and realized that most of those questions are about the Dust Bowl and you were not alive then. So I thought it would be a really good idea if we, either talked about Grandma or you did legacy or whatever, but you chose to talk about Grandma. So we're calling it Remembering Doris. So this is for family watching. This is Lorna talking about Doris.
The second thing I wanted to say as a disclaimer, the things I remember, or when Doris and I talked about things, we found that we remembered the same event, but we remembered it differently. And at first I thought, well, like if I was 6, she would have been 18. So we would have seen things much, remembered much differently. But then she said, she and Ed were the same way. They would remember the same event, but totally remembering it differently.
Yeah.
And they're only 4 years apart. But so anyway, the things that I'm remembering are like snapshots embedded in my mind. And that's how I remember them. And so whenever I have these memories, it's what's etched in my mind. And, it might not be etched in that way in other people's minds. So that's the 2 things I wanted to say.
Okay. Well, and I think that's pretty normal, picture memories. I think that's how I remember things too, especially from that far back when I was 3 and 4 and 5. So tell me again, how far apart are you in age? I always get confused.
12 years.
Okay, because you've always lied about your age pretty consistently.
I know, very much.
39 forever. So I'm like, I don't know how old Lorna actually is. So 12 years apart. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty significant.
Yes, it is a lot different. But, we were a lot alike in so many ways and mannerisms, except she was really nice.
Oops. You were really nice too. Well, and you probably learned a lot from her. That kind of leads me into my first subject. I just said, tell me about growing up with Doris. What kind of relationship did you have with her, and how did your relationship with her differ from your other siblings' relationship with her, or your relationship with your other siblings?
Well, first of all, she had a dual role in my life for several years. She was my sister and my oldest sister. And I'm sure she did a lot of babysitting.
Probably.
And Edna would take over because, at some point with a lot of it, but still she was the oldest.
And then your mom died when you were how old?
I was 3 when she died, and Doris's birthday was the same week as when our mother died.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure about that. I think my mother died February 2nd.
Wow, and Grandma's birthday was the 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so then she was really my mother also, in addition to being my sister for 6 years. From when I was 3 until I was 9, when my father remarried and married Ella Gutendorfer. Mm-hmm. And that was really a good thing for me because she was a really good mother to me. Oh, and then she brought my little precious 3 little brothers into the family, and that was good. And that meant I wasn't the baby, the spoiled one anymore. That's Vernon now.
I imagine you were still spoiled. I'm sure Irv would say that too.
I'm sure. And so I just loved her so much and idolized her, and she was so loving. and had so much on her plate. You know, it surprises me looking back that she was able to take the time to give that much love to all of us.
Because she was
Very
15
special.
then. She was
And
15 when her mom died, right?
what?
She was 15 when her mom died.
Yeah,
I don't know why I was thinking she was 13, but she was
no,
15.
she was 15.
Okay, and
And
a
so,
freshman in high school.
you know, at 15, I think she was a freshman.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, right before her 15th birthday, she had a big load of responsibility on her.
She became
But
the
I do
mom.
remember we had a lady that came. I don't remember this, but I was told a lady came during the daytimes because Irv and me were not in school yet.
You had to
So
have a babysitter or a
yeah,
nanny, right? Because your dad
I
was in
think
the field.
I think her name was Michaels, but Irv doesn't remember. I don't either. And so that was a break. And the other break that very first year when she died was Hilda Hoyer
Hmm.
came and stayed with us. She was 18 and she had graduated from high school at midterm early in December. And
Okay.
so, and her nursing school didn't start till September. So she came, and that had to be just a tremendous help for our whole family that she was there those first months. And she was a lot of fun. And she would sometimes get in trouble with our dad because she was playing ball with us and stuff like that when she was supposed to be baking bread. And what
Chores.
else was I going to say? But after that, you know, that next year when she would have been a sophomore, Edna would have been, you know, she was still 15 and Edna was only 11. She told me on Saturdays they would just do it all: washing, ironing, cleaning, and making the beds, you know, changing the beds. And she said then at night, yet everybody had to have a bath Saturday night before church. And then she would press the clothes because she said she wanted to do everything just like Mama did,
Yeah.
you know, so it was just incredible. And so Doris 15 and Edna 11. And I'm sure those two did almost all of that. You know, if Pop was around, he would have helped, or the boys, but the boys were outside. They had their own work, you know, they had
Right.
plenty of work.
Yeah, Grandma talked about in that video interview with Anna that she'd always give Edna chores. She had to clean, and then she'd go behind her and clean everything again. And so that sounds very much like her.
Yeah.
Poor Edna could never get it right, but she still did it every time, she said, and didn't complain. But I was curious too. I never thought about that. So Grandma was going to school during the day, and you guys were at home. You and Irv were at home, so you would have had a babysitter because she kept going to school. She didn't stop going to school, which is kind of
No,
that's
no, they
and that's
all went.
a really great thing, right? Because
Yes,
a lot of times when death happens in families, you know, the oldest child has to drop out of school to take care of
yes.
the younger children. So that
That
was
happened to Rick's mom when the same thing happened in her family. The mother died. She didn't get to continue with school. So that's right. This was, you know, that was just really important in our family, and all of us had the chance to go to college if we wanted to. So that would not have been, you know, it would have been anything besides that she would have to drop out of school.
how do you think
That
your
was really good.
parents like afforded that, or where did that come from? Because you know, education wasn't always a priority in farm family life. I know I'm veering off script, but I knew it would happen.
I don't know. It just had to be. I mean, that was just the important thing. And then especially since we chose church work, the ones that went.
Right.
Doris went to Winfield. She did eventually get to go to college, but she didn't go in church work. She liked, you know, accounting and
Mhm.
numbers and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure how many years she went. If she went both years, I think it was just a 2-year school at that time, the first 2 years of college.
Yeah. Well, I think
Anyway, I wanted to mention what a blessing it was for us to have 7 of us to comfort each other and love each other and work together and play together. And it was always fun, even though, everybody had to work and do something. Well, I probably didn't have to, I was the baby. But it was nice that we had that many people to love each other and, fill in the gaps of our missing mother in each other's hearts, maybe, a little love from each other.
How did your dad deal with your mom's
I
death?
don't know.
Yeah, you were so little that it was probably, your siblings supported you and each other, but I wonder.
Well, I can tell you Doris was a really, really, really big part of his help. And I remember she had told me quite a few years later, she was married and had Kathy by then, I think, but she and our dad had a really nice conversation, and he was telling her how he just couldn't have kept that family together like that without her sacrifice. That was really nice.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I'm glad that he told her that. I'm glad that that had to make her feel good too, because I know it was important to her keeping you together too.
Yeah.
Always hosting meals and everything.
I had a couple of memories of Doris and Edna that are just stuck in my mind. But this wasn't when they were that young. They were a little older. I remember.
Let me ask the question real quick, because nobody else watching this knows what the questions are. So you got a cheat sheet. So let me ask the question and then you can tell.
This is still in that first question.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Well, that's where I put it anyway, with my siblings. It's in the
great.
siblings.
Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
She was, we were all laying in bed and I was in the middle, and they were teenagers and, maybe 18 and 16 or something. And I was so cozy between my sisters, but they were just talking and talking and talking and talking about everything and anything. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, these sisters are really good friends. And it was just like a really good thought. And the other thing I remember, that often when we did dishes in the evening, Doris and Edna would sing. And Doris sang the melody, and Edna sang the harmony, and she had just a beautiful low voice, alto. And they would sing "Evening Shadows Make Me Blue" and "Now Is the Hour" were two of their favorites. These were like war time songs about having to leave your sweetheart and so on, because you're going off to war. Anyway, I love those two memories.
Well, yeah, I've never heard of those songs. I'm gonna have to look them up.
Yeah, "Evening Shadows Make Me Blue." That was a beautiful tune.
And while you were doing dishes, did you dry or did you put away?
I usually one of them washed, the other one dried, and I suppose I did some drying, but not. I pitched in, I'm sure. Everybody had a job.
They didn't want you to drop anything or break anything or.
And about my brothers, they were always outside farming. We had crops, wheat and hay and corn. And when I was young, we had cows and chickens and pigs and 2 work horses and a riding horse. And so all the animals had to be cared for too.
So the boys did all the outdoor chores and the girls did all the indoor chores. Okay. So did grandma then teach you how to cook and clean and, all the household jobs? Did you learn from her?
Well, I never did learn how to cook at home. I was really, really bad. So I don't know if she just easier to do it herself when I was, I was 9 when Mom Ella came, so, and Ella never taught me how to cook. And I think it's because she didn't like to cook. And then I had those little brothers. And so I usually got to babysit, which was more fun while she did the cooking. So, poor Rick, I remember when we got married, one of our first meals, I put it on the table and we prayed. And he looked up and said, it didn't help.
That sounds like Rick. That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all that I had written about our Doris and my siblings.
Tell me, so your memory about laying in bed between Grandma and Edna, do you know how old you would have been when that happened?
Well, I don't know. 6, if I was 6. Maybe 5, because then Doris would have been 17 and Edna, what's 4 less than 17? 13.
13, yeah.
And we weren't, I don't think we slept like that. I think it was a Sunday afternoon nap, we were just playing in there, yeah.
You crawled in between them to cuddle or whatever. Yeah.
To be in a really nice, cozy place.
All right, well, thank you for that. What's your most vivid childhood memory of Doris? That's the next.
I don't have really any memories of those 6 years. It's just amazing. I do remember when she was dressing for a date one time, and this goes with, you had asked, I think, about a favorite outfit.
Yeah.
She was going on a date, and she wore this blue suit. It was a sky blue suit on a date. I wouldn't think you'd wear a suit, but she did. And it was form fitting. So it had a fitted waist, and she had this little bitty waist. Mm-hmm. And then it was not just below the waist. It was long down to the hips, the jacket was, and long sleeved and then an opening here. And then the skirts were straight, but a little longer than calf length, a little bit longer back then. Big spiky heels and earrings. She looked so great. That answers the fashion question too. Yes. But I never ever could pay attention to. I just didn't remember what people wore.
Yeah, wasn't a thing. The reason I asked that question, and I sent my teacher my questions ahead of time, and she, just to comment or expound on anything. And she said she'll be interested to hear in my paper why I asked that question. And I didn't know if you knew why I asked that question too. Grandma had a closet upstairs in her house where she kept a lot of her old dresses that I would go through and take things out of. And I still have some of them like in my closet that I've worn. But at one point, her waist was so small. I mean, tiny. Yeah. There were a few dresses in there, and she would talk about her really high heels that she wore to the court site and all over the place. And I know she was just pretty fashionable.
Very.
Yeah, she and I would, she'd take me shopping when I was in high school, and it was one of my favorite things to do with her. I mean, it was great because she always bought me something, but outside of that, it was a fun way to spend time because she appreciated shopping, and my mom does not particularly appreciate it. So she and I had a good time.
Yeah,
doing that. Yeah, with that 12-year difference, I imagine, when you're real little, those memories do fade, and they're just harder to really remember specifics. So I asked what your favorite food was that she prepared when you were young. And I don't know if you remember, before she left, of her cooking, what, was always your favorite. But if you don't remember from the childhood, even just throughout life, like
Sunday night, we would have hash. Oh. And hash was mashed potatoes. And, we had homemade butter, and it was always well salted. Nice and salty. And then
wait, who made the butter?
My dad.
Okay.
And we all turned. Yeah, we all took our turns churning.
With a hand churner, or did you have like a crank one, or?
I can't remember. I said churn though, so I wonder if we churned. Anyway, and then in that was the leftover roast beef that we had for the real meal at lunch. And that was mixed in with the hash. Oh, that was almost better than the first time, than the roast itself.
So do you remember how she prepared that? Was it just, she threw it all in the pan, like in a skillet?
Well, she mashed the potatoes, but of course we wouldn't have an electric masher. So it would be the pan, but it seemed like they were so smooth and fluffy with that potato masher.
And then meat. The meat was
I mean,
inside them.
just mashed in there
Huh.
with it. Gave it such a good flavor, that roast beef did.
Huh. Interesting. Have you ever had that since?
No,
No.
and I don't think she ever made it
That's
after.
no.
No,
She probably never wanted to see hash again if she made it
probably didn't.
every weekend. Yeah. Not doing it. When I grow up, I'm not making this. It's probably
Yeah.
it's funny. Okay. What was your favorite family vacation or trip from your childhood with
We
grandma?
didn't, I don't remember any vacations. But Sundays during those 6 years, sometime during that period of time, we would go to Ellsworth on Sunday afternoons after church to Tanta Mealy Bast. Tanta means aunt. You know, she was our aunt or aunt. And Bast was, our grandma Stratman was a Bast. And so she was some relative of our grandmother's. And I still don't know to this day what relationship there was, because she couldn't have been grandma's sister because she wasn't that old. But anyway, she cooked for all of us. She was a spinster and had her nice, comfortable home, but had all of us messy little people in her home feeding us, and there was always cake. And she had a Victrola.
Okay.
The record, yeah, let us put that on and listen to it. It was just really great. And I'm trying to think, after I thought about these things, I wish Doris was still here so I could ask her about. And she had a very sad end because she was burning trash when she was an older lady, and her dress caught fire and she burned to death.
Oh my gosh.
But then her inheritance went to all of my grandma Stratman's kids,
Wow.
which my mother was one of those kids. And so we kids got her portion. And it was something like $37.41 for each of us. And I remember later Carl and Jelena telling me, when we got married, we didn't have any money. No, none of us had money, and we didn't have credit cards. And so they had a bill, a utility bill, and it was for $37.41. And they didn't know how they were going to pay it. They were just scraping the barrel. And that check, that inheritance came that day.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's just a God thing.
Absolutely.
That's great. And I thought Tanta Mealy would just really be overjoyed to hear that story.
I'm sure she would. Oh man. That's neat. So every Sunday you went there?
For a period of time. Yes.
Probably right after your mom died then.
Probably. So that's why I'm thinking Doris would have still, that it was when she was in high school yet.
Yeah, she got Sunday off.
Kids, 7 kids underfoot.
Interesting. Let's see. What is the most important thing Doris ever taught you? That's a loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah, she was just such a role model. She's one of the most unselfish people I ever met. And her faith and trust in God. We both prayed a lot, and we always wanted the other one to be praying for whoever we needed praying, somebody to pray for. And she did the same for me. And her desire always to be obedient to God. Her conscience was just so strongly shaped by God's word. And, she couldn't lie. She just couldn't lie, because that would just not be the right thing. And her discipline of me was so gentle. It would always be something like, oh, you don't want to act like that. You want to be a big girl. Or that's not nice. You want to be a nice girl. And you just didn't want to disappoint her. Didn't you feel like that?
Yep.
And so I remember when she graduated from high school, she really wanted to go to Winfield, 18 years old. But that would have really left the family in a lurch, because that would have put a lot on Edna, who was only 14. She would be the only woman of the house. And so she wrote our Uncle Ted. That's my dad's brother. Uncle Ted looked like her and he was like her, and you would want his advice, you know. And she wrote him and said she wanted to go to college and needed to go to college, but she felt the family needing her and she didn't know what she should do. What did he think she should do? And he wrote back and said, you'll know what you should do, and just go with that feeling that tells you what you should do. And she knew that meant she should stay, and she did that year. But she did get to go to Winfield eventually.
Yeah. Just a year later than she was planning.
What?
Just a year later, did she go the next year?
I think she did. I think she just had to stay that year. And then I don't know what happened. You know, sometimes our grandmother Oftenberg came and stayed with us. Oh, or maybe our dad got married then.
What year did he and Ella get married?
45.
So she'd have been 20.
Well, so I was 9, she would have been 21. Yeah. I don't know.
Probably it. He got married and Ella was there so she could go.
Maybe so.
Mom will probably know when she watches this. She'll be able to answer some of these questions.
I don't remember exactly when she worked at the dealership, the car dealership, and what years she went to Winfield and what years she went to Topeka, you know, and worked there and lived there.
Mhm.
So
Is that where she worked for the radio station?
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So the most important thing she taught you was just faith and to be kind.
And to try to be unselfish.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't easy for her either. She wasn't holy, you know.
Right.
It was always a struggle for her, but it was something that she really worked on. She wanted to be the kind of person that could tamp her own wants down and to try to think of what you wanted, you know, the other person needed. What does that person needed? And that's just a daily struggle with everybody. You know, we always like to think about ourselves 24/7.
Yeah. Having empathy and compassion for other people is difficult sometimes, and putting their needs first, for sure. Let's see. Was there a time when you disagreed with Doris? And how did that go? Ha ha.
I don't remember ever disagreeing with her. We would, when we discussed things when we were older, you know, we would say, well, I think this. And then the other one would say, oh, I don't feel that way. I think this. And that was that, you know, it was, I don't remember ever really getting into a really.
No big arguments. You just.
No big argument. No.
Well, that's good. I'm glad there isn't anything I didn't know. No big secrets coming out.
Yeah.
So we've actually started talking about this a little bit. Tell me about Doris as a young woman and an adult. What were Doris's very best character traits? What were her worst?
I think I maybe just mentioned it. I put her unselfishness again.
Yeah.
And her faith in God and wanting to be obedient to him.
Yeah.
And trying to put down her own wants and think of others. And her worst trait, she always said she was bossy.
She had things. There was a way to do things, and she liked them that way. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I got a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So did my mom. That's all right. I feel like bossy is a trait that was passed down for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's what made her a good leader, and you have to be kind of bossy to be the woman of the house when you're young too, right? I mean, you learn that.
Yes, I don't know if I put this any place, but leadership was another thing in some of the stuff that I wrote down, because she could see what needed to be done and move forward and do it. You didn't have to say, this needs to be done, that needs to be done. She saw it and she had confidence to do it. That's what always amazed me. She just went ahead and did it and had the confidence to do it.
Yeah, that's something. That's a trait that is a good one for sure, having that confidence. Let's see. We talked about her outfit. What did Doris excel at most in life?
Well, she excelled at everything she decided to do because she felt like if you were going to take something on, then you should give it your best shot and do the best you could do to do the best job of whatever she was going to do. And like in her work job, give your employer his full wages worth and more, give it your best. But besides that, I would say something she excelled at was being a friend. She knew how to be a friend. She knew how to listen, really listen to the other person, and then have empathy for that person, and just say a comforting word or an encouraging word. And she had a lot of friends too. And I think, did I say keep confidences? She could really keep confidences. There were things that she has been told that never got past her. They never came out of her again.
That's great. Yeah, I know she had a lot of friends and a lot of people in Lincoln who cared for her very much. And, you know, my mom and I both want to have a memorial service so badly. So many
I
people want to
know, but I
come, and one day we will, for sure.
yes,
One day. But I was wondering, I know my grandma as a grandma, as an older woman. I didn't know if that was something that she sort of, those friendships developed more so when she was older and more, mature, or if she always had friendships in that way, even, when she was in high school, or and you may not know that either.
well,
When she was,
I,
a young married woman, did she have a lot of.
I don't know if she had any friends, but they had a lot of couple friends. Your grandma and grandpa had couple friends, and so they had friends.
They were
And
social.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, but we had talked about us, even how we didn't keep in real close touch. In those days, it was you paid for a phone call, for a
Mhm.
long distance phone call. We didn't keep in touch that much.
No Zoom
We
like this.
yeah,
Video telephone calls.
yeah. Mhm. So for a distance, but I would say, yeah, she had a lot of friends, but they might have been as couples and not a particular girlfriend.
Okay. Let's see. Did she struggle at anything? Do you know?
Well, I think she probably struggled with patience, and I think she struggled with being unselfish. It was not just doesn't just come easy to anybody to be
Yeah.
unselfish.
I know she worried an awful lot. That was
I
something.
I know I have that in common with her.
Yeah.
Really
So do
can
I.
worry.
Yeah.
And you know what she said, worry does work, because almost everything she worried about never happened.
I know. So she said, if I worry about it, then it won't happen. Yeah. I know it weighed on her a lot sometimes. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but it weighs on us to be worriers, both of us. We knew that is not right. Then we're showing that we don't trust God to be in charge and be in control. We want to take it all on ourselves and do it ourselves. So we realized it was pointless and bad and useless and fruitless.
But you
So,
can't, you still do it. That's
yeah,
I have a sign that says pray more, worry less. And I try to remember that, look at that every time. Yeah,
yeah.
it's hard. Yeah. Yeah. What did you think when she met and married my grandpa, Lawrence? And then they got married and had my mom, Kathy, just her parenting style. I didn't know how close you guys were at that time. I mean, because were you, I don't know, how old were you when she got married, when they got married?
Well, I noticed in the video with Anna, she said she was 24, but I remember her being 26 when they got married. But anyway, at some point before she got married, I heard that the VonFanges were wild. Yeah, and they didn't just say the VonFanges, it was always the wild VonFanges.
Oh,
But this didn't seem to be an issue. Edna was already married to Harold, but I didn't know they were wild at that time. So
huh.
this was some new information. I don't know even who. And so I wondered, what is she getting into with marrying this wild man? And when I talked to Doris, several years later, I told her about that. And she said, oh, that's probably because they like to dance. And dancing was, that was wild. But anyway, your grandpa turned out to be the most gentle, kind, steady, dependable, even-natured Christian man, just what your grandma needed.
Yeah.
And with Kathy, I thought that she had a really, really nice relationship with her dad, because her mom went away to work every day, and she spent a lot of time with her dad. Mm-hmm. And I remember her loving those lambs and getting to feed some of the lambs. You had to bottle feed. I guess their mother, wasn't able to do that. And so they had to bottle feed the lambs. She loved doing that. And I always picture in her mind that Lawrence could make anything. If he needed some kind of something or other and it wasn't available, he just made it. And Kathy is so creative. I just imagine her in his workshop, picking up a few ideas on creativity and making stuff.
Yeah, I guess I never.
When she was in high school, I remember having that thought, wow, they really give her a lot of freedom, allowing her to do something, which show for a worry ward, her mom's a worry ward. I thought that's really amazing because it's like they had a lot of confidence and trust in her to choose the right thing. So I thought that was.
What kind of freedom? What did they allow her to do?
Well, she had a lot of friends and had a lot of activities, and she went with the church, but that would be safe, on trips. And they allowed her to work with the highway department in 110-degree weather all day long with all those rough people. But I think more with I just had the impression with all the stuff she did in high school and activities in high school. And of course, when we went to high school, we weren't allowed to do much. So that was, would have been a big difference anyway. But I remember thinking this is a good thing because they have confidence in her judgment.
You got to kind of just let it go too. That's Eli's driving now. I'm like, yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta just say, please God, keep them safe and.
Yes.
Yeah, let them go. Yeah. Well, good. I just didn't know how, with the age difference and stuff too, how much you even, so when did you adopt Dan?
I was 34. We were both 34.
Okay. So did you talk to Grandma a lot about that when that process happened?
No, I don't think so.
You didn't much. I didn't know if you, asked her advice or anything like that. I know. Were you in Missouri at that point, in St. Louis?
No, we were in Arlington Heights.
Okay.
When we adopted him. That's a suburb of Chicago.
Okay. Let's see. All right. Tell me about Doris as an older adult. What was the greatest influence in Doris's life, do you think?
Well, undoubtedly, Jesus' sacrifice for her salvation.
Yeah. I wondered. I figured that would be the answer. I mean, that was my guess when I asked that question, but.
And, our growing up was so precious, because we were just in, it was, our faith was instilled in us with home prayers and God's word. And we went to the Lutheran school. Our teachers, I think my teachers were better than hers. I think one of hers was pretty strict. And the Sunday school teachers when we were kids, and the whole congregation, because you're in a small community in a small church, everybody's pulling for these kids, you know, people's kids to grow up to be decent people. And then when we grew up, the church life was just so, that was our life. You know, we not only worshiped there, but our social activities and gatherings and get-togethers. We used to have mission festivals. That was just a huge, enormous fun day. Plus hearing missionaries, which interested even us kids to listen to those missionaries. They were always from foreign countries and told really fascinating stories.
So church was your social life pretty much. I mean, that's where you went when you did anything outside the house.
And then when we were teenagers, there was a Walther League back then. And that was really important in like maybe Doris's age. There's so many people in St. Louis that I knew that met their husbands and wives in Walther League. So that was a really good social Christian place to be.
Yeah, things are definitely different now.
Yeah.
The way you meet people and how, and
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you think was Doris's greatest accomplishment?
I think her influence on the lives of the people in her life over the span of 94 years. And I think I had told you the day she died, that morning I was doing my morning devotions, and it was Psalm 71, 17. And that was actually for the day before, which was Palm Sunday, but I never do devotions on Sunday because I'm going to church instead. So I was reading this Monday morning, and it says, "Oh God, you have taught me from my youth, and to this day I declare your marvelous deeds. Even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, oh God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your might to all who are to come." And I was thinking about all the generations, my generation, her siblings, that she had a big part in forming our lives. Then Lawrence and her having Kathy's generation, their daughter. Then she was so close to you, her granddaughter, your generation. And then you kept her so involved in Eli and Kaysen's little lives until, you know, the very last of her life. 4 generations of lives impacted.
Yeah.
Plus all her friends of 94 years.
And there were many.
Yes. So, and I remember reading through, she had that card shower when she was 90.
Oh, yeah.
And I read those cards. And it was really amazing how many people that were really close friends that wrote her cards. And they said something specific in there that about how she had made an impact on their life. I thought that is so cool. I hope I will do that more often. Write people that have meant a lot to me and just let them know, because it just really was really wonderful, because she had no idea in many cases that she even did anything that meant anything to them.
Well, and that they still remembered that and then wrote to her then. Yeah. I know she was tickled to get all of those cards. That was something she was much happier about than having a big party or anything like that. You know, that was.
I know, it was the best idea.
I know. It was fun. Yeah. I guess that's kind of, you know, how I hope to age and the impact we all hope to have, I think, on when we die,
Yeah.
hopefully we've touched lots of people. I mean,
Yeah.
the purpose of living, right? Like your
Yeah.
devotional said. I mean, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that kind of goes into how did Doris age gracefully? I mean, that was kind of part of that, I guess. But
She never really got old.
no.
Her body maybe got a little old. But I thought of this more in like, I picked 3 critical points in her life where she had to grow into something new circumstance. And the first one, of course, was when she was 15 and had to decide whether to be unselfish and giving and sacrificial. And she was able to, with God's help, do the sacrificial thing. And it made, I think a lot of us would have been more damaged by our mother's death if she hadn't stuck with us like she did.
And pushed through her own grief so that she could take care. Yeah. Because she was probably the closest to her mother of anyone, being the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't imagine how hard that was on her, but you're right.
Yeah.
She probably just prayed and used that grief to help because she knew you guys would be lost without her. Yeah.
Doing what you have to do, sometimes you just are able, God gives you that strength to do what you have to do, even though you're really not physically capable even. The second was when your grandpa died. How she grieved so hard and so long and so sad. But even during that time, I think she had the wisdom to accept invitations. I don't think she stayed at home, even though she probably felt like just staying at home. And so she did make herself go out and do whatever people invited her to do. But she said she had like a huge weight on her chest, kind of like a heart attack, I'm thinking, and it was sort of a heart attack. When your loved one dies, that's just really, really, really a part of you ripped away.
Well, especially spouse too, I mean.
Yeah. And then one day she just said she woke up in the morning and that burden was lifted. It was gone. And then she was 73 when he died and lived 20 more years.
Alone. I mean, for the most part of it, I don't know if I could live alone that whole time.
But she found purpose and use, and she was secretary of this and secretary of that, and the art center and church and her friends and her family. She just, she was able to find a purpose again after he died.
She stayed busy too.
Keep busy and do that. Yeah. And I often think, I'm not a good cook. I think when she was 90, she was still baking pies that were good enough to take to a bake sale.
Yeah.
Mine might have been good enough to eat, but you really wouldn't want to look at them.
Or her chocolate dessert and her coffee cake, the coffee cake. Yeah.
Just amazing person.
Keep it in
and the last one was entering the nursing home. How difficult that was, this independent woman giving up her dependence, leaving her big home that she just loved, going into a small room. No more good food that she fixed herself, so it was just the way she liked it. The regimen of the nursing home, she used to stay up till midnight reading and doing crossword puzzles a lot of the time. The limited conversation. But she just had this real huge desire to accept this in a gracious way. And it was hard. It was really, really hard for her. We talked quite a bit then. But she figured out a way. I think this is a big way that helped her. She figured out a routine so that her day still had, she did this, then she did that, then she did that. So every day she had stuff to do, so she wasn't bored. And so she had her day laid out ahead of time so she wouldn't just waste the day. And Maureen made a big difference because they could talk every day and lived right across from each other.
Yeah.
And the routine, I think, is what helped her the most. And, last year, it seems like 5 years ago, 2020 been so long.
Yeah.
Last year, we had that family reunion and I stayed a few more days and I spent the days with her at the nursing home. I considered myself to be in nursing home training for when it was my turn.
How to act and what to expect.
I really saw how it would be when it was my turn and which things would be really difficult. And I saw some ways on how to cope with it by watching Doris. But anyway, it turned out I stayed too long and I was underfoot too much, and she would said, she was tired out sometime from me. Well, not like that. I mean, she said it in a nice way, but sure. It made me really, really happy because I could see that she loved her routine and had made her nursing home was her home, and that was her routine, and she was content.
Yeah, she was comforted by the routine for sure.
Yes, really, really, that was so good for me to hear that she just liked to get back to her routine. That's wonderful.
Yeah, she I could tell that she kind of took care of everyone in the nursing home like she would have done at home or with you guys or for me. I mean, she kind of knew where everyone lived, which room was who and what was going on with them and what they needed at the time, and would walk up and down the hall and say hi. And, so I think she felt a sense of purpose in that way there too. They depended on her for interaction and, companionship. Yeah. I think those 3 points are really, really great points because she did how she engaged, in the face of adversity. What she did.
I have to plug my computer in.
You're fine. Go ahead.
So sorry. Okay, we're set to
You're
go.
Okay. You're okay. So what's your favorite more recent memory of time spent with Doris? So I know you talked about going to visit her in the nursing home, but did you have a different, you guys went to Sanibel Island a lot before, 5 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
What,
More than 10 years ago. All of my favorite memories are from after I retired. So I was 64 and she was 76. Mm-hmm. And then she'd start coming out. And Alfred brought her once and we went to White Creek, Indiana, where all of our grandparents and great-grandparents came from that area. And we went to the church and school and cemetery and saw all the names in that cemetery that you see at St. John's Cemetery. That was really just the 3 of us. That was a great trip. But she would come, Roger and Sherry would bring her, or if I go out there, or Irv and us would go out there, she'd come back to St. Louis with me. And I was always so delighted to see how she made herself at home there. And eventually she did tell me that. She said she just always felt so at home, like she could just do whatever she wanted and, make herself comfortable. Those were wonderful years. And sometimes we went to concerts, and of course we went to church and did stuff, but sometimes we just, sat around and did boring stuff.
Well, you played games too, right? Card games? You played card games too.
Card games. Oh yeah, in Sanibel.
Yeah.
And so it was way more than 10 years because Rick was alive and they loved to do that crypto crap thing in the newspaper. And I couldn't put up with that. But so Rick would get the newspaper every morning and he'd copy the crypto crap for himself and then give
crap. I like it.
I don't think it's really crypto crap, is it?
Crypto quip, but close enough.
Okay. Anyway, you can tell I didn't like it. And so those two would compete then, you know, he'd wait to do it until she would get it. And then they'd try to see who could do it first. And they both loved crossword puzzles and were always asking each other, you know, the clue they were working on. That was really, really cool. And some of the things we did were so precious. Sanibel for all those years, and Rick was with us. Rick's been dead for 10 years.
I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah, this year it was 10 years. And so when we first went to Sanibel, he was with us for several years. So it's, you know, a lot of years.
Been a while, yeah.
Yeah. And that was so much fun because we would have one condo, Rick and I and Doris, and then Irvin, Judy, and Karen would have a condo or whoever was coming with them. And one time we sang happy birthday to her because we were close to, we might have been there on, oh no, we were never there on February 7th, but it was close enough. And that cost a big lot of attention, you know, because we were singing funny attention. And
yeah.
It's really funny. But besides that, she and I once went to see Casey and Nora in Pella.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh. we only got mildly lost once. And another huge blessing for us. We would meet Leonard and Doris in Dixon, Missouri for the Bluegrass Festivals.
Oh yeah.
We did that quite a few years. And Rick and I and Doris would stay in a motel, but Leonard liked to stay out there in his van and stay overnight because they were singing all night long. Those people singing, and anybody.
And Leonard was the dancer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And we found a nice church to go there every year when we went there because we did that quite a few years, and Leonard and Rick really enjoyed each other's company and humor. They had a really good time together. So that was a precious time. And what else did we do? We got to go to Canada, the Banff, up there on a bus tour with Irvin Judy, and also out to the Northeast for the Fall Color with Irvin Judy. Both of those trips were just really great. And what else did we do? She'd always walk with me when we were in St. Louis. But I liked the track, but she didn't like going round and round and round and round. She always walked the parking lot, which was more interesting to her.
Yeah. Even though she was still going round and round and round. It just
yeah, right. And the other thing, we went to that Kramer wedding, Carla's son's wedding in Columbia. Doris and I did. And the Hoyer and Oftenberg reunion. 75 people in her backyard, and she got Pop's organ over to her porch. That was superhuman effort by Lawrence and Doris. Lawrence was always so patient with all of us, but then he had a big family too, and I think sometimes a lot of his family was at their house too.
She definitely knew how to host.
She sure did.
Hostess, sure did. Whatever.
And the family reunion, and so us that lived away, Carl and Irv and me, because it was just it was so refreshing to come back to the farm life and the farm people and common sense and their stories. It was rejuvenating for our lives. And that was Doris, of course, always made those happen. And I also wanted to mention, no, I think that's all. Those are just sort of odds and ends that I thought of after I had gone through all the questions, that I did want to mention all of the good times we had after I was retired.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did travel a lot, especially when she was in her 70s and she was
Yeah,
able to get around so much and come here so much. And, we just, I got a little wheelchair for her when she was in her 80s, and we just load
yeah,
her up in the car and take her out on the soccer fields. And I mean, I think she really enjoyed, I know my
you
kids
know,
had a really special
yeah.
relationship with her.
She loves you and your family so much. She loved seeing those boys. And when she got older, she always said, well, I know I can't live forever and I'm going to have to leave. But, she would say, well, I want to live till they get in school.
Yeah.
Then I want to live till they get confirmed. Oh, I want to live till they get married. It's just like she was always wanting to see what was going to turn out with them. She and was always so close to those two boys
Yeah.
and played with them. And she said even when she was in a nursing home, they didn't notice any difference. That she was in a nursing home. Now she was still their grandma, their
Yeah.
great grandma.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were just, yeah.
And they knew that, they went in and they talked to her about their days and
Yeah.
singing and laying on the floor in the nursing home.
Yeah. She said they were just like always, just as goofy as they wanted to be and just as, sweet as they wanted to be. It was really wonderful. Your family did a great job with keeping her young. She went on a lot of vacations with all of you.
Yeah.
Was really, really, you included her in everything.
Yeah. We have
You're,
some great pictures and memories from Dallas. We went to Dallas as a family, and so that was fun. Yeah.
you're a wonderful granddaughter. She told me she used to like to tell you stories, but they were about herself.
Yeah. I'd
Once,
always tell her to make up a story whenever I stayed the night there. I
yeah,
spent a lot of time with her. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was nice.
We used to always, I like to make up stories, and I would cut out things from like newspaper or magazine, usually magazines, and make a story, like glue them onto notebooks. And when we were going through her house, I found some of my old spiral notebooks with a picture of a girl that I named, Mary, and that her dog and their house. And, I'd cut out all these pictures. My boys are like, what are you doing? Oh, it was fun though. And we played
Yeah,
Monopoly and Yahtzee, and yeah,
yeah.
it was.
I think is so cool is that she did live till your boys are as old as they are. They'll never forget her. I mean,
Nope,
they're old enough so that they'll never ever forget her.
that is the truth.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. They'll remember her for sure. And it's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yep. So the last question, is there anything you never told Doris but wish you had?
Well, it's the same thing. I tried to tell her and I would try to write it in notes and cards, but I never was able to find the really right words that I wanted to thank her for what she did for me when I was from 3 to 6, 3 to 9, those 6 years, and the rest of my life, but especially what she did for our family during those 6 years. Even though I tried, it just seemed like, oh, that's inadequate. But I know she knows I tried.
Yeah. Well, and she is not the kind of person to, I mean, she did it because it was the right thing to do.
Yes.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, if she'd have been a different personality, things could be very different for
Yeah.
you, and recognizing that. I mean, I feel the same way about my parents and about her. And, we all are made a certain way. And, you know, God made us to do things, hard things, and we support each other. And thank God we have such a good family.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know one of the things I wrote in her that I forgot to mention is that she was always so thankful that church is important to Kathy and Ed, and church is important to you and Chad and Eli and Kason. That was so comforting to her and your church family, and your them being confirmed.
Yeah.
One will be confirmed.
Yeah.
One is confirmed.
Well, and God was such an important, I mean, faith was her main coping mechanism through all of that. And she wanted to make sure that we all had that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she did a good job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really, really happy that she was so close to her granddaughter. That's not always the case.
No, I am too.
Yeah.
Yep. I miss her a lot.
Yeah.
She's actually here. I just realized too, I have a picture of us in here. Have you seen this picture before? Can you see it? This was in front of her house at the farm.
Wow. It's been a long, long time. How old were you?
Well, Chat and I were married, and this was probably, it can't be more than 5 years ago, maybe.
Oh.
It wasn't that long because it was before I don't know. I'm gonna have to look and see because time, slips away and
Yes,
it's
doesn't it
only
though?
5. But it was definitely, I mean, she was still at her house, but my hair is pretty short. I'd say in the last 5 years.
Oh.
But I just always thought that was a really good picture of her.
Yeah. You have a lot of pictures. I love every once in a while you'll post something
Yes. Yeah.
about her. It's just so great.
Well, and I tried to take a lot of pictures because it's nice to have that, and to have the technology now.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just get caught up. I haven't been as good lately. And I have to, like tie my children down and make them smile pretty much. Not always, but yeah, it's important.
Are we off the air?
Nope, not yet. I'll turn it off. Thank you so much.